Hello everyone and welcome back to another Know How Friday video. Today I'm using a piece of Tim Holtz watercolor cardstock and then my Spellbinders Standard Circle small dies. So I took the smaller two, I think there's actually one smaller, so I used the next two sizes up, and I taped them down with washi tape onto my cardstock. And these are I'm not gonna use the circles, I'm gonna use the watercolor piece itself. So these are gonna act like windows on my card front. So I want 3 of them. So I'm just taking the smaller one and taping that into place with some washi tape, and then I'll run that through my Cuttlebug once again, and then I will have 3 die cuts out of that piece of cardstock. Alright, so after I cut those out, I'm going to watercolor this piece. Now, I have 3 different colors of cardstocks, and I didn't really know how they were going to blend together, so I just kind of went for it, and I ended up adding a few more distress inks, which I will show you in a minute. But I'm starting with the Abandoned Coral, and I'm just adding some water to that, and I'm actually just going to add a puddle of water right onto my nonstick craft sheet as well. I'm actually going to go over my entire piece with this water. You won't be able to see it obviously because it's clear on here, but it's just an easier way to get the colors to blend on your cardstock. When the watercolor cardstock is already saturated with water, the colors seem to flow a little bit better, and I think it just works a little bit better. And I also wanted to do this because I wanted a little white border around each of those circles and the edge of the cardstock, and that just helps so that the color doesn't run off the edge of the page. So then I'm just adding both of the other colors to my nonstick craft sheet and adding a little bit of water to each, and then you can see when I just splash that on there, that color just bleeds out. So I'm just adding little bits and then kind of adding some darker and some lighter spots to it and mixing the colors. And I wasn't sure how that blue or turquoise was actually going to fit in there. That is the peacock feathers. I like it when it blends more with the Abandoned Coral because it turns a little bit of a purple color. But you'll be able to see how I kind of did this and changed the colors later on in the video. So I'm just going to continue adding these colors together. I'll go ahead and just set this to some music since it did take me some time to color them in. Alright, so I wasn't really liking the way that the blue was blending, so I just took my baby wipe and placed it on top of that to pick up some of that color and water. And you can see how light that it actually ended up, which I liked, but I wanted to add a little bit of yellow in there. So I'm going to mix the Abandoned Coral and the yellow right on top of my previous watercolors. I'll just add some water to my inks and then blend these colors together kind of with the background, because the background is actually still wet. It wasn't completely dried when I started doing this again. So it does blend in with those background colors. And I wanted to add the yellow in there anyway because I was planning on coloring one of my stamped images in yellow and also using some yellow pattern paper in the background. So it really just helped tie it all in together. And I wanted to show you this because this is kind of how I work. It doesn't always go smoothly. You know, sometimes your plans change when you are card making, which is why I wanted to show kind of my process behind that, and that's why I didn't cut everything out from the beginning and start over or anything like that, just because that is how I work when I make my cards. So I'm just going to keep adding these colors in there, and you can see how it's really changing. It's kind of turning more orange color, but you can still see the blue through that, and I really liked the way that this background turned out. So I went over it with my baby wipe again, just picked some of that color up, and then I'm going to go ahead and stamp my images and then color those in with my Copic markers. So I'm using the Fawn Monster Mash stamp set, and I am stamping 3 of these little monsters with my Tuxedo Black Memento ink. So I'll go ahead and put those on my clear acrylic block and stamp them all at the same time, just because that makes it a little bit easier. And I'm using the Coordinations 110-pound cardstock. You want a heavier weight cardstock when you're coloring with Copic markers so that it doesn't bleed as much through your stamped images. And then I'm going to go ahead and color those in. Alright, like always, I went ahead and fussy cut those images out after I finished coloring them. Now I have a piece of yellow polka dotted pattern paper from the Fawn Let's Polka 6x6 paper pad, and I cut that down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and that will fit right onto my white A2 size card base. And to make an A2 size card base, you just cut a piece of 8.5 by 11 paper in half. So before I place my watercolor piece on there, I'm going to stamp my sentiment. This is from Simon Says Stamp. I believe it's called Birthday Wishes, or Birthday Messages, I think it's called. All of the supplies I used on this card will be linked below if you're interested. And I'm stamping that with the Tuxedo Black Memento ink. Alright, so after I stamp that down, I can go ahead and adhere that on top of my pattern paper. I'm just using some large 3D foam squares from Best Creation. I wanted to make sure I covered that entire background piece. And then I can place that right on top. Alright, and then I'm going to take my little monster images that I cut out, and I'm also using some 3D foam squares to adhere these, and I'm going to place them like they're kind of peeking out of each of these little windows on my card base. So I'm using the Best Creation small 3D foam squares for these since they work a little bit better. And I'll place them right inside of each of those holes. Alright, and then the last step, I'm going to add some white sequins. These are from Pretty Pink Posh. I have the 6mm and the 5mm, I believe are the sizes. Actually, I think the small one is 4mm and 6mm is what they are. So I'm just adding those on to kind of randomly placing them on, and that's how I work with sequins. I place them all onto my card front before I glue them down, just so I make sure that they're all where I want them to be on my card. It just works a little bit better. Otherwise, I tend to change my mind fairly often, so I don't want to glue them down first. And I'm using the Tombow Mono Multi Glue to adhere those into place. Alright, and then that is my finished card for today. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And I will see you guys back here next time. Bye!